Nirvana Shatakam. This is the text being expounded. And according to this text, there are only two words that we need to know. Aham and Naham. That's it. That means there's no third word that exists that doesn't include, or which these two words do not include. You will not find a third word. It's very simple, isn't it? Two words. How many words do we know? Thousands. And then we want to know about every word. Only two words. So if there's only two words and there's no third word, then that simplifies things quite a bit. And we have to discover how so. That means whatever words you're now contemplating about this session, what am I doing here? What is this about? They're included in one of these two words. Now the word in Sanskrit is padam. Padyate jnayate anena iti padam. So what is a word? It is a means by which you come to know something, a means by which something is revealed. Padyate jnayate anena iti padam. A means. You could say then it's a vehicle, to simplify. It's a vehicle by which a meaning is delivered to I. If I have this object here, we call this a flower. So this object has a meaning attached. So if we want to know what this is, we need to give it a name. We say flower. It's a flower. And in the word flower, there are parts. So you say flower, but what is this made of? Many things. But whether we know about many things or not that this is made of, we still say flower. And so we have this object arrive to the subject through the word flower. So if a word of any object is padyate jnayate anena iti padam, a means by which something is known or revealed, then what's the relationship between a word and I? There has to be a relationship. That relationship is called, there's a object-subject relationship. So this means a word, like a flower, the meaning of this word is delivered to the subject, I. So naham is delivered to aham. And what's the relationship between naham, not I, and aham, I? It is a subject-object relationship. Okay. So if there's only two words, then either this desk is, or this cup is, or this book is I, or it's not I. If there's only two words, obviously cannot be I. Otherwise, I would be as good as a desk, or experience myself with a bunch of books sitting on me. So anything that exists like a flower or a desk or a book and is known to me is Naham. Another way to put it is anything that is known other than what I know as myself is Naham. And that one who need not know myself as another object, like a flower, is Aham. So this means everything you know about right now, every thought, that recent event that happened in your home, the upcoming vacation, whatever it is, not I. Whatever anxiety, whatever worry, whatever concern, whatever aspiration, whatever goal, ambition about anything, not I. So now, let's look deeper into this word aham and naham. So we have, for example, a flower. And we call this flower a this cognition. It's this. I'm pointing to this. So this cognition. This cognition. What does cognition mean? It is an object of knowledge. It's cognized. What is cognized? This is cognized. Now, while this is being cognized, this goes away, and now this is being cognized. So now we call this cognition. And then this goes away, and then this is being cognized. So cognition, the objects change. Or knowledge, knowledge flower. So when we say cognize, it's knowledge flower. Or you can say pen knowledge, flower knowledge, desk knowledge, or desk cognition. You know this word cognition? Flower cognition. Who had this flower cognition? Because we said there's a flower cognition, and you all agree. Flower cognition, yes? Mm-hmm. Yes. Now I take this away. Who had flower cognition? And we say, I had flower cognition. So Naham cognized, not I, replaced by Naham, not I. Remove that, and now we say, who had cognition of flower and pen? And you say, I had cognition of flower and pen. Therefore, I cannot be Naham. Because if I was Naham, then when the cognition of flower goes away, then I go away. So we can say in the presence of I cognition, there is a flower cognition. In the presence of I cognition, there is absence of flower cognition. In the presence of I cognition, there is pain cognition. In the absence of pain cognition, I cognition remains. So aham and naham, basic words of inquiry. So anything that is this cognition, not just this, also point to your own finger, to your own body, to your own idea, notion, ambition, aspiration. This, let me talk about it. This, naham. It's cognized. This goes away, I cognition remains. Now look at this. For flower cognition to take place, you have to wait. We're now waiting for flower cognition. And then flower cognition comes. Now I'm going to show you pain cognition, and you're waiting. You're waiting, getting impatient for flower cognition. And then here it is. Flower cognition comes. Okay. Now, how long do you have to wait for I cognition? What's the delay between now and your I cognition being revealed to you now? What's the delay? What's the period between those two? But there is a period for this cognition. Therefore, two words, aham and naham. So we can see that this I cognition is entirely different from naham, in the sense that it doesn't require you to wait to know that I am. Hold on, 5 minutes. Okay, now I am. Is this how we are? Hey, every person starts their sentences in every language, educated or uneducated, with I. You need not wait for I cognition. Everyone knows the I cognition is always there. That's aham. Now, suppose that we spread our fingers like this, and a bullet passes in between the fingers. And you go, oh, thank God, I am not hit. Whew. Because the bullet passed between here. So what does this mean about the I, the way that we relate to I? I mean, tomorrow, I suppose you hit your finger and there's a big bulge now. And now that bulge is filling the space which yesterday the bullet passed and you said, I'm not hit. Now today the bulge grows and the bullet hits. And you say what? I got hit. What is this? So what does this mean about the way that we understand our I? It means that anything, the moment it crosses the edge, that's where the world starts. The moment it's here, that's where I am. And tomorrow I'll lose some weight. Hopefully not. And now, right, I'm less. There's less I there. So this means the way that we understand this aham and naham is the world begins here and I, right, am here. That means I don't exist here, okay? Today, I don't exist here. Right here, I don't exist. I only exist the moment the finger I got hit. That's where I am. Tomorrow, there's a big bulge. Bullet hits, I got hit. Now, suddenly, magically, I exist here too. Maybe a month from now, big body, you know, ginormous, size of a house. Suddenly, now there's a lot more right? I there. So now many bullets shoot. I'm being hit all over the place. A month later, I go thin. Some magical formula I take, and I go thin. And again, the world past the edges of the skin begins, and I'm not there. I don't exist here. Right here, I don't exist. I only exist here. Tomorrow I'm big, now I exist there too. Seems we're a little bit confused about how we understand aham and naham. There's only two words. And yet, through this experiment, it seems that we create a third word because of this mix-up. And maybe an appropriate name for this third word would be avidya, which means an error committed due to non-clarity of aham and naham. There's no third word, but we create a third word. Due to non-clarity, what is truly aham and naham? So there's a mix-up. There's a mix-up between aham and naham. And then we make statements like, thank God I was not hit because I don't exist here. This is what we do. Look at this. In my world, my body is aham. And your body is naham. That means your body is an object of this cognition, this, naham. My body, aham. But from your standpoint, my body is naham. And now you say, no, no, no. My body alone is aham. And then a third person comes in and says, what are you guys fighting over, you fools? You both naham. I am aham. I think the camera, just put go a little bit to the right. Yeah, put the camera more straight, Shiva. Camera. Yeah, just put it a little to the right, like tilt it to the right. Okay, like that, yeah. Yeah, I think that's okay. Thank you. Okay, so now if my body, from my standpoint, is aham, and you're all naham, not I, not I. From your standpoint, this is naham, you're aham. From another person's standpoint, all of us are naham, he or she alone is aham. So what's going on here? How can you have every body, individual body claiming it is aham when it's canceled out from a third person perspective? How can you do that? So is my body then aham or is it naham? It has to be naham. Because every person is looking at this body now and says it's naham. My dear, sorry. No, I'm aham. You bring a third person, they cancel this out. And every person does this because avidya doesn't spare anyone. Ignorance of this phenomena is universal. However, like you have a house, and there are many houses, but there is a special relationship with that one house, isn't there? Now, when the house gets a little bit damaged and you call that my house, you don't get damaged. So for sure, there is a relationship that you have with your house. Like that, there are many bodies, like houses, 8 billion now. And with one single body, you, aham, have a special relationship with the body. Isn't this true? Do you have a relationship with your body? Do you have a better relationship with anyone than the relationship that you have with your own body? Do you? The relationship that you have with your body, is there any one relationship that you have as close or as intimate as you have the relationship with your own body? No. Same thing with a house. That house gets damaged, I wish them well. But I'm not that affected. This body gets damaged, there's some problems. So when the problems start, there's nothing wrong with having a special relationship with the body. It becomes a potential issue when I take this body, naham, and I mix it up with aham. Body is ill. Therefore, aham is ill. There's nothing wrong with the body. Leave the body alone. The body is a great gift to be used wisely. But the mix-up, avidya, causes this third word, and then acting according to that ignorance, mix-up. So what do these verses then do? Nirvana Shatakam. They negate this mix-up. That's their purpose. And we will now begin the process of negation. So then the question arises, what is required to remove this mix-up between aham and naham? And we stated already that anything that exists is an object in the presence of whom is qualified as this flower. In the presence of I, cognition, flower cognition is cognized. In the presence of I cognition, a concern, a doubt is cognized. A doubt is this. What do we do with doubt? We share our doubts. Anything that is shared, anything that you share or talk about, this cognition. Okay. So how do we untangle this mix-up? Because our problem is we live as if there's a third word. Thank God I was not hit, because I don't exist there. You see, anything or any time or any place when there's a confusion, what does confusion mean? Or mix-up? What does that mean for you? Mix-up. There's a mix-up. There's confusion. What is confusion? I'm confused. What is that?
Insufficient information. Insufficient information.
Louder?
Insufficient information or knowledge.
Okay.
I don't know enough.
I don't know enough.
Doubts, conflicting information.
Conflicting information. Closer? I'm confused.
Knowledge.
Lack of knowledge, yeah. Similar to not having the right information.
Not knowing what to do next, right or wrong.
Not knowing what's right or wrong. I'm confused. I don't know. Now, is that pleasant to be confused? Does anyone like to be confused? Hey, today I'm confused. So what does this mean? Confusion is not natural. Otherwise, we would all want to be confused every day. So the whole life ends up being deconfusing, undoing confusions. You see, our very experience gives away what is right and wrong. Assuming the mind is decently clear. Sometimes it can be distorted and it can say what's wrong is right and what's right is wrong. So what is it meaning to say, I am gaining clarity? I'm unconfusing myself. It's a very important question because whole life is really about uncluttering, decluttering, undoing distortions.
Discarding what is not true.
Discarding what is not true. And what does it require to discard what is not true?
You need to know. You need to have direct observation. You need to know the truth.
You need to know the truth. Okay. But see, in the process of confusion, that's the very problem. The mix-up makes me not know what is right or wrong, what is truth and falsehood. So when the reality of something is misconstrued or misinterpreted or misunderstood, the mistake that we make is we do not know what belongs where. That's confusion. I put things in the wrong place. I don't know what belongs where. The body belongs to aham, naham belongs to aham. It's all over the place. So now someone said the right information or don't know enough. So what I have to do thus is know enough so that I can put things in the right place. Otherwise, it's not possible to put things in the right place unless you know what you're putting in the right place. Therefore, this process of categorization is called viveka vicharaha. Viveka, vicharaha means inquiry, and viveka means how do I inquire? What does it mean to inquire? To untangle the knots, to deconfuse myself? It requires viveka. Categorization, knowing what is what. Is this your own experience? When you get clear, what is it for you? I would like to hear this. For you, when you get clear in your life about something, what happened in that moment when you got clear? That aha, it's clear now. Before, confused, but suddenly something switches and suddenly I am now clear. What happened? I would like to know.
A sense of peace.
A sense of, but what happened? There is peace, that's the byproduct. But a byproduct of what? What happened in the mind that just a moment ago there was confusion, misconstruing reality, and now suddenly that sensation of doubt is no longer there. What happened?
You feel free.
You feel free. You feel free. You feel at peace. But I want to know what happened in the mind.
Because you directly perceive the truth.
Okay, so something directly perceived the truth. So it was able to cognize what is true.
Knows it's true. It knows it's true.
It knows the truth.
It knows that it's true.
Yeah, it knows that it's true. And what required for you to come to the point where suddenly it knows that it's the truth without any doubt?
Connected the dots.
You connected the dots, okay? And for those dots to be connected, you had to go through a passive or an active process? An active process. So now does deconfusing oneself involve just sitting back and waiting for something to magically become clear? Or I have to engage in an active, persistent inquiry called viveka vicharaha. What kind of a vicharaha? One that involves viveka, putting things in the right place. This does not belong here, it belongs here. This does not belong here, it belongs here. That's viveka, discriminative inquiry.
Would that require honesty?
Hmm?
Would that be honesty?
See, to come to honesty, it's the same thing. It requires a certain owning up, acknowledgement, humility that, hey, maybe I have not figured things out as much as I thought. maybe there's something to figure more out. And how do I figure that more out? Let's use a simple example of a crystal. Suppose you have a big crystal, maybe this is a small one, but it's like this, and you amplify this crystal, it's very big, and it's clear, and it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. So imagine, or a bigger one of this. I'm going to put it here. Now there's a big crystal, and behind the crystal, clear crystal, nothing behind. Wow, amazing. Now we put behind this crystal like a color. See, it's a little bit, because it's small, but you put maybe blue, okay? What color is the crystal now? Blue. And now you smile because it looks like a precious stone, suppose. Oh, precious stone. I love this crystal. And you genuinely smile because what you're seeing from your standpoint is a precious stone. No, it's a crystal. No, it's a precious stone. I tell you it is a crystal. No, I tell you it's, and then you fight that it's a precious stone. Then we remove the blue color, and then we put the ugliest thing possible behind this crystal. Something really ugly. Okay, it's a huge crystal, so you don't see the edges. Are you smiling now? Hopefully not, right? And because you put something really bad, ugly. Okay, it's repulsive. And your response is one of repulsion. Smile. It's a precious stone. It's so pretty. That blue behind this is replaced with the ugliest thing ever. Now it's repulsion. So what does your response reveal? From one moment, smile, next moment, repulsion. What does your response reveal? That emotional response. What does it show?
Likes and dislikes.
Huh?
Likes and dislikes.
Likes and dislikes, very close. It shows your understanding of the crystal. You don't think it's a crystal. You think it's a precious stone or the ugliest thing you've ever seen. Nevertheless, from your standpoint, you understand that which is completely clear without any blemishes. You understand it to be beautiful, ugly. So your response gave away an understanding of a reality. The reality is the crystal, aham. Beautiful things inside, right? Mixing up with the aham, like this. Okay? Color. Oh, I'm blue. Oh, I'm green and sick. Oh, I'm vomiting. Oh, now I'm back to blue, right? Hold on. I want to be in love. Okay, I'm preparing for it. Okay, here we go. No love coming today.
No,
All right, so you're not, I'll tell you. Oh, there it is. Okay, finally I found love. Finally, I am love. I am love. I am love. I am divine. And so you're happy. So your response in reference to who you are shows you your understanding of aham. I'm not good enough. One day, I'm the best person that I know. I am the greatest. Mix up. Now, when you realize that the crystal is just crystal, crystal is just crystal. It's clear. That's what a crystal is. There's nothing to say about it. It's just clear. but the color continues. How do you look at the crystal now? Can you still see it as a beautiful thing? Can you still, and will you still show disgust? Yeah, because you're human. But you know crystal is just a crystal. So though there is a disgust, there is happiness, there is joy, that is balanced out by my knowledge owing to viveka. Therefore, now when I look at the crystal, even though it is tainted by a color, by a property or an attribute, you can still enjoy and say, what a beautiful thing it is. Oh, it's repulsive because of likes and dislikes. I can still enjoy it. I can still write poetry about it. But I understand one thing. Crystal is always crystal, clear. So in that same way, when the perception gets corrected, of suppose you recognize that I am free of blemishes. You've corrected that perception. You can still enjoy that I seemingly taking on attributes, can you not? But your own knowledge lets you know, your viveka jnanam, knowledge owing to viveka, says it's okay. I am always I. Aham is always aham. Naham, aham. Even if they're seemingly together, aham is always aham. So therefore, I can still cry, I can still smile, but there's a certain knowing, cognitive knowing, I am always I, free of blemishes like this crystal. See, in some situations, even after you correct a perception of, suppose, the sun, you used to cry, go, oh, sun, look at the sunrise, look at the sunset. And you got emotional over that. I saw this in Byron Bay. We used to go to the lighthouse. We always used to sit down, and around 6 o'clock, I remember, and everyone's just waiting for that moment. Oh, look at the sunset, orange and pretty, and we're all eating and drinking, not alcohol, but normal drinks at 6 o'clock. And we're all, nice community. Everyone's talking about the sunset. Okay. So now you can still, right, appreciate a phenomena. But suppose you now come to see that that sunset is not a sunset at all. There's no sun that sets. Are you now going to go and tell everyone, hey, look, this is just, it's not setting, okay? It's just the earth revolving. How did that go? How would that go, right? The irony is, even if it's true that the sun is not setting, you will spoil the mood. You see, truth is a very funny thing. If the person is not ready to hear the truth, you ruin their experience. And that ruining of experience, now they're not going to pursue the truth. They will go and try to cope with different methods. So even after I understand that the phenomena of, quote, sunset and sunrise is not setting or rising, still it appears to set. The sky appears to be having a ceiling, appears to be blue. During daytime, the stars appear to disappear. But even if it appears to do that, you can still write poetry like Rumi. You can still say, oh, the sunset touches me so deeply that I look into the disappearing stars during the day and I wonder, oh, how far and small those stars, little they are. But then someone comes to you and says, actually, the star is not small at all. You know how big a star is? The star hasn't disappeared. And you say, why are you ruining my experience? Let me write poetry. I know it's an appearance, but I can still express myself as a human being. So this means that everything your eyes report is not really true. You know, the tree over there is so small, far and small. It's the biggest tree in the world. And you see a small tree. The tree seems to have a shine of its own. But that shine is not a property of the tree. It's borrowing its light from the sun. The stars seem to be so small, or they seem to shine. You're looking at night and the star is shining and you're talking about that star. I wonder what that star, how far that star is. But that star is not even there. That star blew up millions of years ago and you're just seeing the remnants of light still traveling. And you're speaking about that star as if it exists. The tree doesn't have a shine of its own. It's borrowing its reflected light from the sun. Can you really trust your eyes? As I said, when you look at this at the beginning, you say, this is a flower. But what do you mean by that? Flower. What do you mean by that? What defines this a flower? What, the petal? If I get rid of one petal, still a flower? Yes. Still a flower? Yes. Is it still a flower? Flower? No. So can you really trust your eyes to report the truth? If you're only seeing one fraction, the tree is so small, it's not. The stars are so tiny, they're not. So what can we conclude by this? To see something, to see the truth, to recognize the truth, perception is not enough. And second, experience doesn't necessarily mean knowledge or fact. I look into the sunset and I cry and I have an experience of beauty. But is my experience keeping with a fact? No, because the sun is not setting. Experience doesn't necessarily mean something is true. Experience of the sky having a ceiling or being blue, is that a fact? The sky is neither blue nor does it have a ceiling. But my experience, genuine experience, says it is. Leave me alone. And then I have a genuine expression, emotion, and fight over it. Because to my eyes, that is how it is. Your perception cannot report the truth. So now when you realize, suppose, that your eye, like this crystal, is free of blemishes, free of concerns, free of worries for the future, of ambitions, of sickness, of old age, of merits and demerits that you have to go through, of pain, of happiness. Does that now mean that experience is going to go away? No. Just because I know that the sun is not setting and rising doesn't mean that the experience doesn't go away. The experience continues, but my knowledge, owing to Viveka Jnanam, recognizes that is not the case, but I can still enjoy the experience. Okay, now let's go to a different section, which will now ask, how do I resolve this mix-up between aham and naham? This is a continuation, a little bit more in depth. See, there is something about you, and I want you to relate to this, not just listen to it, relate to this. There is something about you that never wavers, never changes, that has never changed. And if it's never changed in all situations, the good times, the bad times, it's always been it as it is. And if it never has changed, it must also mean thus it's always been evident. Evident. It's always known for what it is. It's always been known as itself. If it never changed and it's always been evident, that also means there was never a time that you were able to negate it. Can you relate to this? Something about you that you were never were able or are able to negate.
Yeah, like when I was a child, I was present like I am now.
Okay.
So, but my
Sure.
body's completely changed.
Yeah, you've had so many people already.
Yeah, and all sorts of things have happened.
Yeah.
But there is that sense of I being who I am.
Yeah.
That has not missed anything.
Indeed.
I've actually seen everything, even though sometimes I miss myself that I haven't. But in truth, there's nothing I haven't seen.
Yeah. So Paul is speaking of something that he recognizes. There's something about him that has not changed, that he cannot quite call as this. Because anything that you call this, like you look at the picture of your childhood and there's a baby picture there, and you say, oh, look at this baby. That baby was being born at some point. That body was being born. And now, at that point, you were saying, oh, this is me. But now, 5 years later, you look at that same body and you say, this. So there's something about you that has not changed, is always evident. All the time it's evident. Even now it's evident. Right now, and you cannot negate it. You see, you think it's your name, right? What's your name? And then you say your name. But your name was not there until I just brought up your name. Where was that name until I just brought up your name? So before I brought up your name, there was something there. So let's find out what this is.
Change your name, I used to be you.
Yeah. If it was your name, it should be there all the time. Shiva, 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 Shiva. Interesting, we got Shivoham in this verse. We'll get into the verse. So let's see if it's perception, if that which I'm talking about is something that you can perceive, because we may think, or we might wonder, maybe that which is non-negatable, I cannot get rid of it, it's always there, maybe it's been some sound or some feeling or some sight that I've perhaps been in touch with. Let's see. So, can you prove the existence of anything? Can you prove the existence of this flower unless your eyes are open? I have a flower. And you say, prove it. I have a flower. No, prove it. How do I prove to you a flower? The only way to prove a flower is eyes have to be open. Flower, proof. That's the only way. Is there any other way to prove the flower?
Smell it. But I could be blind and I'm in the room and I smell a nice flower.
Okay, suppose I say to you, prove me a color of purple. Purple flower. You can't smell purple. So I say to you, there is a purple flower. Prove to me a purple flower. No way. I can describe to you color, but I cannot prove to you color unless your eyes are open. Same thing with a sound. Prove to me a clap. What clap? Did that take place? Yes. Why? Because the ears are open. So if the ears were not open and this happened, there's no way to prove that. So anything that is a perception, any kind of perception, same thing with a feeling of delight, of peace. Even that requires some time to come. I've not had peace yesterday, now I've got peace. Therefore, peace is not what we're talking about. Because we said it never changes. It's always evident and it can't be negated. Where's your peace when someone graffitis on your car? Gone. Yeah, it's not time bound. It should be available all the time. But anything that we point as this, because of the eyes being open, ears hearing, requires time. Because it was not here, now time is gone, and now it's here. But we're talking about what cannot be negated. That means it can't be negated. That means it was there yesterday, is here today, and now, and will be there after we all pack up and go. That's what we're talking about. Aham. So I require the eyes to see something. Okay. In the presence of the eyes being open, something or this gets objectified. Okay, so in other words, this depends on the eyes. See that? For this to be known, to be proven, it depends on the eyes. You close the eyes, there is no more this. Sometimes you can also objectify or come to know things. When we say objectify, I'm just speaking of come to know something. By inference, we call this perception-based inference. It's called perception-based inference because it requires perception. And then you follow up with logic. For example, if a branch falls in a forest and there was no one there to hear it, did it make a sound? Of course. Well, I wasn't there. Well, of course it made a sound because I can infer any branch that falls with a certain distance makes a sound. So I still need to perceive the branch on the floor to say, even though I have not heard the sound of the branch falling, I still need to perceive the branch, and then through my logic, I say, the branch made a sound. So what does this mean? It means that to cognize any object, it requires perception and it requires inference. To cognize flower requires the five senses, one of the five senses, in this case, the eyes. To cognize or to objectify or to come to know something like a branch making a sound, you need inference. And inference is a product of
Memory?
your mind, right? You need to think a little bit. You agree with this? You need to think a little bit. For example, wherever there is a son, there must be a father. I don't see your father, but I know there's a father because you can't have a son without a father. When I see the red lights on the car in front of me, which is, how do I know it's braking if I don't see it's braking? Inference. So I still need to see the red lights, and then by the red lights, you infer, the car is stopping, even though you don't see it stopping. That's called inference.
It's having to do with experience, because if you ask somebody who's never seen a car and they see a red light, they don't infer the same thing that you do.
Exactly. So in other words, you still have to have the memory and the mind involved for inference to take place. So what can we conclude? To know anything in this world at any time, you need inference or perception. Inference is requiring the mind or thoughts, and perception requires the five senses. Okay? And what is that anything that we speak of? Naham. Now, do you require perception to recognize the presence of aham? Do you need to see yourself to know that you are?
You have to think about it.
Like let me see something in me to know that I am, that I exist. Huh? Let me hear that I exist. Yeah, I exist. Let me taste myself. Okay, yeah, I've got some aroma. Yep, I exist. Is that the case? No.
Does it exist in deep sleep too?
Deep sleep we'll speak about a little bit later. Yeah, it's a future session. So I don't need the five senses to know that I am. The eye cognition doesn't require the five senses to know that it is. But an naham or anatma requires the five senses to be proven, to know that it exists. I require not the five senses to know that I am. What about inference? Do you need to apply inference to know that you are? Hey, I'm moving, therefore I exist. Hey, I'm speaking, therefore, I am. There's also times when you're not speaking, you still are. Now, if perception is a product of five senses and inference requires the mind, and aham requires neither perception, neither inference, it means what? Aham doesn't require the five senses nor your mind. You don't need to infer that you are. You know that you are, irrespective of whether I feel something or not, or I see something or not, or whether the mind is working or not. It's not necessary. So what does it say about aham? Aham is self-evidencing. It evidences itself. It doesn't need evidence from something else. But this requires, for this to be evidenced, it requires the eyes. Aham. Does that require your eyes to be open to know that I am? Okay, then fine. Close your eyes. Are you? Have you gone out of existence now that you close your eyes? No. And then you get a little bit sick, and then the taste and the smell goes away. Have you gone out of existence? No. And then we give you noise cancellation headphones. No sound. I still am. See, sometimes the mind daydreams. There's a class going on, suppose, and we're giving a good lecture, and we're all laughing, and we're all thinking about it, and we're all, finding out new things, insights are going on, and everyone's just tuned in. Where is this going? Everyone's listening. And there's one of us in this class that's like this. And then you turn to that person and you say, hey, you hear this guy? It's funny. You hear him? And you go, huh, what?
Which guy?
Which guy? What? What happened? What do you mean what happened? He was speaking and he was showing. Did you not hear this? No, I didn't. Where were you? Oh, I was somewhere else. I dozed off. My mind dozed off. It went somewhere else. What happened? Even though the eyes were open, ears were working, the mind was not connected to them. It went somewhere else. So even your senses, this cognition requires eyes, and eyes require, or sight requires, the mind. But now if your aham required the mind, that would mean that when you have no mind or just silence or stillness, you go out of some existence. Then who would want to go to a meditation? Because meditation is technically just no mind, stillness. If you were as good as your mind or your thoughts, why would you ever want peace? Because peace is essentially no mind. And everyone wants peace. That's why we all like to deep sleep, because that's the ultimate mind gone. No one says, oh, I don't want to sleep tonight. It's painful. I'm scared. This boring sleep, No, we all love to sleep because you don't want your mind there. And if you don't want your mind, it must mean that you cannot be your mind, because you always want to get rid of things that are not yours, that are a burden. Who wants to get rid of things that are giving you, adding your freedom, adding to your peace? Nobody. You always want to remove something that is not yours. That's why we love to sleep. So anything, once again, that is a this cognition is not I. Body is evident to I. Hunger is evident to I. Thought is, whatever that thought is, evident to I. Absence of that very thought, evident to I. I is evident to whom? I. Except we don't say I is, we say I am. This is the grammatical thing. So if you look at any object, naham, it requires the presence in whose presence it's evidenced. It requires the presence of I, in whose presence that object, this is evidenced, in the presence of I. So it depends on I to be evidenced. But I is evident to whom? I. No, we just said. Well, you see, if there was no I, you see, if you say there's no mind, there has to be something there to recognize there's no mind. So there has to be something underneath, in quotes, to say that there was no mind. Now there was mind, and now there's no mind. Then what's left?
The inference, I is an inference of the mind.
No, because inference can end. Inference can stop. That means if I was as good as inference, then inference has to constantly continue. It has to be a continuous process. You're not inferring, you're relaxing. You're relaxing 99.9% of the time of your life. You're not inferring. And while you're relaxing, you know that you are. I am.
So like the I then is not dependent on anything.
That's what we're saying. I is not dependent on inference, nor perception, nor the mind. Because Dave, we just said, your mind goes away during deep sleep. Totally goes away. And you love to go to sleep. You say, I'm happy to go to sleep. You don't say, I'm scared to go to sleep. If you were scared to go to sleep, that would mean what? You would get hurt. Something would hijack you. Something took me away, and nobody wants to get taken away. But what happened, what got took away in sleep was the mind. And yet I went to sleep happily, to have my mind taken away happily. I want my mind to be happily taken away. Because mind is naham. And I am aham. There's only two things. And the viveka, vicharaha, is just putting things in the right place. This is I, this is mind. We're not negating anything. We're just seeing things as they are. This is mind, this is I. That's it. Leave the mind alone. Leave inference alone. Leave perception alone. Perception and inference is perception and inference. Thank you. It's useful. I am I. That's it. So an object requires to be evidenced in the presence of aham. Naham requires aham. But aham does not require naham. That's why aham is unlike anything else. Because anything else requires aham, and aham is the only principle that doesn't require anything else. Presence of mind, aham. In the I cognition, there is mind cognition, right? In the I cognition, there is absence of mind cognition. In the I cognition, there is emotion cognition. In the I cognition, there is absence of emotion cognition. In the I cognition, there is concern cognition. You know, that thing that happened last week or last month? Yeah, that one. You know what it is. Or it will occur. In the absence of In the presence of I cognition, there is absence of thought. So I cognition remains I cognition. Because I am, in my very presence, a thought comes, a thought goes. Inference comes, inference goes. Aham, naham. And sometimes we say, hey, my mind is dozing off. You know this statement?
Mhm.
Okay, how do you know your mind's dozing off? Unless you were something other than the mind. Otherwise, you wouldn't make that statement. My mind dozed off. Yeah, so that I was there to see that. I did not doze off with the mind. In the presence of I cognition, which is self-evidencing, it doesn't require anyone to prove it. There was mind cognition, dozing off cognition. Therefore, this cognition requires evidence in the presence of your eyes, in the presence of the mind, and in the presence of you. But I, aham, requires no mind, requires no sight, and requires no object to know that I am.
So it's not the mind. No.
It's not the mind. It's not doesn't require the mind, because mind is just a series of pictures.
Yeah,
Right now, this is mind.
yeah.
Look at this. This is mind. You think, what are you seeing now? A flower. Where is this flower? Is it here or is it in your mind? In the mind. You agree with that? Because the light is bouncing off, entering your eyes.
Yeah, I got to stay with it because it's the mind, the sound, all the senses are working. Sound, words, understanding words. It's all observed. I can see and hear it all, but I am. That the consistent I am.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
And everything else is changing. The state of the mind, everything changes. Everything's coming and going. It's just what you're staying with, what you're describing, which is the aham.
Mm.
But we're using words. So, whereas aham is not a word. Is that right?
Aham is, see, we still have to use words.
Yeah.
That's the irony of it, right? So that's how we have to distinguish. Remember, viveka vicharaha requires to put things in categories. I have to bring them out first.
Yeah.
If I'm just discerning naham against nothing, then it's like, what is this nothing? So I have to give that nothing particular aham.
Well, it is. It's not nothing.
It's not even nothing. It's not even nothing. But we say it's aham. It is that which requires no evidence to be known, because it is self-evidencing. It is self-known. It's never not present.
What we call consciousness. We use words like consciousness, awareness, or
Yeah.
So if it's all in the mind, then what I'm seeing is not true. How do I know that? Now, if it's all in my mind,
Yes.
how do I really exist?
Well, it doesn't really matter because, good question. It doesn't matter because, see, naham, okay? All that matters is distinction between aham and naham. So whether this exists, there's a particular ontological existence to this. We will get to this next session. I'm not going to discuss that now. But there's a certain existence to what you're seeing now, but it's not absolute. It's not absolute. For now, it's not absolute. There's only one absolute, and that is that which is self-evidencing. It doesn't require the help of anything else to know that it is. The flower requires the eyes to exist, to know that it's here. The mind requires my presence to know that it's functioning, for it to function.
I think the confusion is in the Western philosophy, I think, therefore I am. So you kind of equate yourself a lot with the mind.
Descartes, he said that, and it's a very good psychological statement. It doesn't really apply to Vedanta, because he wants to show you that on a daily basis, whatever this mind entertains, it will form habits, and it will form behaviors and speech, and its life will start to reflect that. So at the psychological level, at the level of living a life, that's a beautiful statement.
That's what most of us are doing.
That's what most of us are doing, yeah. And the irony is it's required to prepare the mind. Otherwise, I don't want to think that I'm a small person, I'm a nobody, and what Nirvana Shatakam is saying, you're the whole. Yeah, but I'm just a small person. So what does Nirvana Shatakam say? First, address your relative self-esteem issues, at least develop some confidence in that relative self, and then you can start to appreciate your true nature as the whole. So there's a place for everything. That's called clarity. Non-clarity is discarding. I don't need this Descartes. I don't need self-help. You need it. Absolutely.
The confusion is when there's I thought. The thoughts are from the mind. So when you say I, there's a mental thing, see? But what you're saying, I is not a mental thing, the mental phenomenon.
No, Dave, I is not a mental phenomena. Mental phenomena is specifically naham, the mind. So this is what viveka is. Having total clarity of what is naham, in your language, the mind and thoughts, and what is aham. Not just knowledge. We're not speaking from knowledge. Here's a little theoretical lesson, goodbye. It's direct, we call it experiential knowledge. Aparoksha anubhuti. Direct knowledge. So that takes some time. So if one's going, I don't know what, this is not clear, because we're so accustomed to naham, that whole thing, oh, I'm not hit. We're so accustomed to that it's very almost strange to hear this. It's almost foreign to bring this idea, which is an idea initially, but it's actually the truth. It's the reality.
That experiential knowledge that you said, the previous example, for me, I exist, so aham, and everyone else is naham. And for everyone else, I'm naham, part of naham, and for them, they're only aham. So it doesn't matter what others think, but if I'm experiencing it, that's right for me. Can we conclude that?
We have to first be very clear so that your aham may not include some components in there, such as we will see verse 1, perhaps the ahamkara, the ego, for example. That's a big one. So we have to be very careful what this word aham means. See, so we're taking it systematically. And so we have to strip out all these small, minute things that creep in this aham, and then the aham claims, no, this is me, this is aham. But 99.9% of the time, it includes the ego. Okay. And that is so subtle that we have to be surgical, with surgical precision, we have to strip it out.
Sometimes we say, like, instead of saying the mind is foggy, I say I'm foggy.
Exactly. So this is that whole third word, avidya. I'm foggy. So if your I is self-evident all the time, then is there true ignorance of I? Is I truly ignorant? If your I is all the time evident for everyone, that's why everyone starts their sentences with I, then is your I truly ignorant of itself? No.
But most of us, when we say I, we don't really mean the aham. We are either meaning our ego or our mind or body. Mixed up.
Yeah.
You attach it to something that you have, your body.
You see, you can say, for instance, there is ignorance about a particular subject matter. Right? I don't know something. Or the mind has knowledge about a particular field, like philosophy or genetics or science or mathematics. In reference to that, you can absolutely say there is knowledge of that. Or there is ignorance about guitar. Okay, my mind has ignorance of guitar. So ignorance and knowledge about a matter or a subject is always in reference to a mind, never in reference to I. Because even if you say, for example, I am ignorant of the self. Let's go with this. I am ignorant of the self. I am it's a contradictory statement. Listen to this. I am ignorant of the self. But that entire statement, I am ignorant of the self, is evident to whom? To the self. So your claim of being ignorant of the self has no bearing on the self. Therefore, the self, or aham, is neither ignorant nor knowledgeable. They are phenomena of the mind. If the self was truly ignorant of itself, then you would never search for the self. You would never search for the truth, because the truth is the self. But every single person is searching for fullness, for happiness, for that true I. Every single person that gets born, showing you what? You don't have total ignorance. One doesn't have total ignorance of I. Their ignorance is partial. Because on one hand, I know that I am, but on the other hand, I say, oh, I don't exist here. I did not get hit. What does this mean? I know that I am, but I don't really know what I am. Partial ignorance, not total ignorance. So this means that you transcend ignorance, but ignorance doesn't transcend you. And when we use this word transcend, we don't mean a space, like a spatial transcendence. If I say knock on wood, now suppose there's this cup made of wood, knock on wood, okay? And then we have a plate made of wood, knock on wood. And then you say, why are you knocking on a table? Knock on wood. And I say, I did knock on wood. Why are you knocking on a cup? Knock on wood. I say, I did knock on wood. So when someone says knock on wood and they knock on a table, what are they doing? They're transcending the table, transcending the cup, transcending the plate. Transcendence doesn't mean they're two different things away. My cognitive understanding is when I knock on wood, I can knock on a table, knock on a plate, knock on a cup, but I'm actually only ever touching wood. Therefore, you transcend ignorance. I am ignorant of myself. In the presence of I cognition, ignorance of self is. I know the nature of myself. Hopefully this will happen for us as we spend time. In the presence of I cognition, there is knowledge of the nature of the self. So the nature of the self is neither tainted by knowledge nor by ignorance. It is just that light, like this light that shines on both ignorance and knowledge. Sometimes when we say something is evident, right? The self is evident. This evident to the self. But suppose you say, okay, flower is evident to the self. Another way to say it is, this is an object of consciousness. Crystal is evident to the self. This is an object of consciousness. Mind's attention is an object of consciousness. Mind's inattention is an object of consciousness. Sleepiness is an object of consciousness. So if everything is an object of consciousness, crystal, object of consciousness, flower, object of consciousness, pen, and they all come and go, but what is one invariable that remains here? Remove the word pen, absence of pen consciousness. Crystal consciousness, remove crystal, absence of crystal consciousness. Flower consciousness, remove flower, absence of flower consciousness. So what's one invariable that remains through and through all cognitions? It's the presence of consciousness. Yeah, but my consciousness is small. I want to expand my consciousness. Okay? Even that statement, my consciousness is small, it's evident to whom? To I. Therefore, even the statement, I want to expand my consciousness, Buddha has better consciousness than I. Even that statement becomes an object of consciousness. Whatever you say about consciousness is an object of consciousness in the presence of consciousness. It has no bearing on consciousness. Therefore, there is no such thing as levels of consciousness, higher consciousness, or I want to expand my consciousness. All these phenomena are just objects arising in the mind with a certain time-bound thought. Oh, yesterday I didn't have this idea of raising my consciousness. Today I want to raise my consciousness. But yesterday, what was there? Consciousness. Today, what is here? Consciousness. What will be there tomorrow when the mind changes once again into some other silly idea? Consciousness. So then who am I? I am consciousness, chit.
So how do you acknowledge the gaining of knowledge? So say, for instance, I came here and I didn't have any awareness of the aham, or I have a certain degree of awareness of aham, and I'm just trying to understand the expansion of consciousness and higher states of consciousness.
Okay, that's in reference to how much of that clarity is taking place in the mind. That's knowledge. So the more I remove these ideas, all these mix-ups that are entwined with, like this crystal, the less light, suppose these ideas, right, that we have about consciousness are like this light. The less light in this crystal, the more clear I am. And so in reference to that lesser of false ideas about who I am as consciousness, in reference to that, you say, my consciousness is as though expanding, but it's not. What's really happening is your false notions are coming down. And how do we make false notions come down? Viveka vicharaha. Through a constant discernment between aham and naham, which is what Nirvana Shatakam goes into detail, as we are going to soon come to. Therefore, level of consciousness is never in reference to consciousness. It's always in reference to ignorance coming down.
To do that, viveka vichara, we need the mind, right?
Yeah, so the mind, that means viveka vichara is really just removing false ideas in the mind, reducing the amount of clutter that's behind this crystal. Because when you see the crystal with all this clutter, it's very hard to say, like, is this a crystal? What is that? Or even harder, water and salt. How do you discern the two? they're like one and the same. So it's a precise process that we have to go through. This is easy, you know, oh, take the flower away, boom, easy. But when it comes to aham and naham, they are subtle, very intricately connected. Even though they're never connected, but from the standpoint of the mind, it seems as if they are connected. That's why a lot of people say, you know, but if this crystal or this self is already free, why do I have to do this purification? The answer is because, are you at peace with who you are? If you're honest, the ones who say no, that means there's still more work to do in reference to the mind. So one can philosophize and say, yeah, the self is free of all these blemishes, all they want. But if they're honest, still there are some degree of conflict and a certain amount of identification with illness and, you know, mind not being sharp. It says, I am not sharp. I am going old. I am not so young as I used to be. So all these attributes are still being mixed up with aham.
Why the ignorance? Why the ignorance to start?
Say
why the ignorance, the false notions, where was the source?
So the beginning of, so ignorance is a product of, there's no beginning to ignorance. It was always there. That's why we're still here. So this will be taught in later sessions. Where did ignorance come from and why is it there? So let me finish this. We've got 15 minutes. So any statement that you say, this flower, what does this mean? Flower, consciousness. Window, consciousness. See, when I say consciousness, please don't look at this as some object. I'm just talking about in the presence of I, the one who enjoys consciousness, there is a window. So window, consciousness. Table, consciousness. Hand, consciousness. So what can we ascertain from this? Is a hand separate from consciousness? Right now, there is a hand. Hand consciousness. Why do we say hand consciousness? Because there is consciousness and there's a hand. Flower, consciousness. Therefore, naham is never separate from aham. There's no separation here. Just putting things in the right place. This is naham, aham is aham. That's all. We're not putting things in some special place. Just looking at what is and being very clear with what is. Naham, aham. Simple. Now, if this gets removed, flower consciousness, crystal consciousness, pen consciousness, has any of those prior nahams stuck onto consciousness? Suppose the pen sticks onto you. That means when I rid of this pen, and suppose the pen is now stuck onto consciousness, then what would happen if I bring this up? It will look like this. But the fact that the pen here is pen consciousness, consciousness is now free, giving way to crystal consciousness, free, giving way to flower consciousness, free, etc. Thought consciousness, emotion consciousness. Which thought from your life has stuck onto you and it's still here persistently, constantly? Which thought? How many thoughts did you have since childhood? Wow. Not one joyous thought, not one unpleasant thought has ever stuck onto you. That's why it's not here now. So consciousness always remains free, never takes on the properties of naham, And because that is the case, it never takes on length or width or height. How long is this? 15 centimeters. Okay? How long is your consciousness, please? Please measure. Measure your consciousness now. Give me like the length. How deep is your consciousness? Oh, I've got a deep consciousness. What do you mean by that?
About the level of consciousness. It's such a topic, such a trendy topic.
It's a trendy topic because there is a mistake that we look at levels of the mind, levels of understanding, and all this gets mixed up with consciousness. So it's giving away that avidya.
It's probably just an inverse way of looking at it. Just like, you can say, I'm removing the layers.
I'm removing the layers.
Yeah. Or you can get it from the other way. I'm expanding my knowledge.
I'm expanding my knowledge. My knowledge is in reference to who I am. It's more keeping with, and that which is false is being reduced.
Way of speaking like I'm expanding, consciousness is expanding or levels of consciousness. I mean, it's just kind of looking at it not really accurately, I suppose, if you look at it.
It's okay. At the pop culture, it's okay. In class with a teacher, it's very specific.
Yeah.
So there's a place for everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the beauty of Vedanta. We don't, kind of criticize what people are doing. What they're doing is there's a place for that. But as you advance and you get more to the tradition, you start to realize and say, those few things, levels of consciousness, take that out. I'm expanding. There's consciousness is bound to time, so therefore I will find this thing tomorrow, not today. That also goes away. Hey, will you find consciousness tomorrow? Because see, in this tradition, we'll say now, the whole point is to realize this with total clarity, which is nothing but recognizing you are that consciousness. So now suppose you can find that consciousness to tomorrow. And you say, I'm going to get enlightened tomorrow. What you're really saying is, I'm going to get consciousness tomorrow. You see how silly that is? I'm confining consciousness to tomorrow. Some fine day when I get enlightened, it will be in 5 years from now. Only then there will be consciousness. Only then there will be, now you can say that in reference to clarity, but you cannot say that in reference to gaining something new. That's why we say it takes some time to reduce, to strip out these weeds. In reference to that, you can say, yes, it's not quite clear, but think not that consciousness, that you will get some higher level of consciousness in the future. This is false. There will never be,
You're saying this is already got?
It's already here. It's already here. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm not satisfied with that is because the mind still has all these ideas. It's supposed to be an experience. It's supposed to be bliss. It's supposed to be this and this and this, as they said, likes and dislikes. So what you have to do is reduce these ideas that were picked up from here and there. Just get them out because they're all naham. And see how naham creeps in and it makes your aham as though it's inadequate and small. And thus I want this I to be I imagine it's your great I in the future. When in fact, I is already free right now. Despite the color and the contamination of this crystal is already free and now. How do I know that? Because the fact that it can get rid of the green and apparently take on the attribute of blue means it was never contaminated by the green. And the fact it can get rid of the yellow and give way to green means it was never stuck to yellow. So you don't have to separate something and kind of come out and like a little chicken, come out of this body, and I'm now consciousness of my own. Understand, despite the presence of this instrument, of this body, there is aham. And aham remains free by the mere virtue that nothing ever got stuck onto you, and it's not here and now. If one thing doesn't stick onto you, then what does this say about countless other things? They too will never stick onto aham. Otherwise, it should be right here and right now. So therefore, consciousness is not restricted to just the flower. If it was restricted to just the flower, then when you remove it, consciousness will go away. But it doesn't. Therefore, it is anantam. It is not confined to any one object or time or place or location. Over here, there is consciousness, and over there is no consciousness. Let me just find consciousness through meditation, and I'm going to get in contact with consciousness. What are you saying? It's not here and now. It is that which is always there, self-evident, cannot be negated through any possible state of mind. In every state of mind, it is there. And yet the individual mistakes consciousness as a state of mind, and then they say what? I want to attain a state of mind so that I can say I am now liberated.
And who is liberated? It's never the mind anymore. I'm already liberated. I'm already free.
So consciousness is already free of every attribute. That is a fact. You're already free right now. Now the mind is still kind of, putting its ideas. Well, maybe I'm not so free. Maybe I'll be free tomorrow. And there are so many of them, I tell you. And they usually get discovered in time, not immediately, not in one class. It takes years and years, like little by little, peeling those layers away. And the more they get peeled away, the more I actually experience myself as free. Just saying it is not enough. Anyone can say, I'm free. Anyone. But to genuinely respond without being too disturbed, knowing that you are free, knowing that the whole thing is like a dream. Nothing touches self. That takes some time in Vedanta.
The culprit is
Hmm?
the mind is the culprit. It's all in the mind.
The mind is see why? You can even prove it through the verses. How many lines is about taking out what I am not? Because every verse has 4 lines. 3 lines is about who I am not, and only 1 line is about who I am. 75% of the work is about taking out, stripping out who I am not. And therefore, chit I am, and this chit is not confined to a time. That means it's not going to be there tomorrow, or a different kind of chit. You will not find a different kind of consciousness, a more enlightened consciousness. Consciousness, the reality is right here, right now. There will never be a time when it will be better or where it will be worse. This is it. It will never be confined to one particular place. Like, let me go and find my chakra, sahasrara, there it is, I found consciousness. It's not localized to any one place. Therefore, I am chit anantam, and this anantam, which is without limits, it's not limited to any particular place, time, location. In moments of joy, in moments of happiness that we experience, what happens? This absence of limitation you enjoy for one or few moments. You see, when there is happiness, what happens when there is happiness? What happens when there is happiness? Who wants to be happy? A desiring person, right? A person who is unhappy. Now, if you're already anantam, full, whole and complete, and that being wants to be happy in order to enjoy one's nature as fullness and wholeness and completeness, what does that imply about that entity? Mix up. That's why I want to search for wholeness, because I believe I am not already whole. Because I am limited, I think I am only blue. Oh, look, I'm only blue. I'm only red. I want to be green. I'm not green. And so attributes I take on and then I complain. Now, in moments of happiness, what happens is, for the first time, what happens is the subject, this complaining person, and the object, they temporarily cease. The desirer, the little me who I think I am, and the desired object, they temporarily fuse. And in that fusion, you experience your wholeness. And that wholeness, we call happiness, ananda. And you say, this is so pleasing, I want to do it one more time because I love my nature as that one who is full, whole, and complete, who lacks nothing. So when there is happiness, what happens when there is happiness? Are you saying, I want to be more happy when there is happiness? Are you saying this is not good enough when there's happiness? Are you saying, I want this to be different when there is happiness? No. When there is happiness, that is that one time when you are in touch, a little glimpse of your nature as that one who lacks nothing. I am full, whole, and complete. I don't need anything because I am both because the subject and object is both I, but I am not the subject and object. Therefore, the verse ends with Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. Who am I? Chit Ananda. Shiva, we will talk about next session. And therefore, you are Chit of the nature of consciousness and Ananda of the nature of fullness. And then the rest of the verse, it says, Mano Buddhyahankara Chittaninaham. If you have the verses, find out. So, manaha, buddhi, ahankara, chittam, and naham. So, manaha, who am I not? I am not the emotional, doubting, desiring mind. I am not that. I'm not the desire. The desire is me, but I'm not the desire. Because we said desire, consciousness. Doubt, consciousness. So they all depend on consciousness, but I'm free of doubt, of emotions, of desire. Buddhi. What is buddhi? It is that aha moment. You know, when you have that aha, I got it. That's your buddhi working. I am not the aha moment. I am not the epiphanies. I am not that intellectual, cognitive part that likes to feel smart. I am not that. I am not the decision maker. Chittam. I am not the recall or recollection. Therefore, when you say, oh, I'm losing my memory, are you really losing yourself? Naham. When your memory goes, you remain you. Oh, my memory is no good anymore. It used to be so good. It's no longer good. So it becomes a complex now. I am that. That is not. I am not that. It is I, the process of memory, that which recollects is I, but I'm not it. Because memory, consciousness. So even memory depends on consciousness. Ahankara. The one who owns all of this, the memory, the buddhi, the emotions, the one who owns that, the subject, the ego, the feeler. I am a feeler. I'm a feeling person. I'm very much into feelings. That's who I am. The seer, the experiencer, the hearer, the taster. This is all ahamkara. I am not that. But all of them are me. Why? Because ego consciousness. Now, where is that ego of yours, the Mr. King? You know, I am a king during a waking state, but when there's a dream, I am now a beggar. You cannot be the ego. Because if the king, the so-called king, disappeared, you would disappear in your dream. But you don't. I, the conscious being, remain, seemingly taking on a different role in a dream. Nacha shrotra jihve nacha grana netre. Nacha shrotra jihve nacha grana netre. Mano buddhyahankara chittani naham. Nacha shrotra jihve nacha grana netre. I am not the sense of hearing or smell or sight. That means if you were as good as your sight, what would happen when your sight stops? You would end. Understand? Your sight stops, I continue. Now, if I am not that, then what does this imply? It releases you, if you think about it, from this whole need that I have to be surrounded by beauty. I have to have beautiful experiences because they're nothing but just improvements of 5 senses. I'm no longer hearing as well. I don't hear so well. I don't see so well anymore. Oh, I'm dying. All of these things are senses. I am not that. They are me, but I am not them. You see how we put so much self-esteem in these senses that are dying away and reducing every year? You know, by the time you reach 60, you've lost about, I would say 60% of your taste bud capability. 60 years old, 60% loss of taste buds. I don't know what you eat, Rani.
Tastes pretty good. Very, very good. I think smell does.
Now, if you were as good as that taste buds, that means 60% of you would be out by now. Because they do decrease. Nacha vyoma bhumir natejo navayuhu. Nacha vyoma bhumir natejo navayuhu. I am not the 5 elements, which we will speak about next month. Knowing that I am, right, so I'm not the 5 elements like space, time, air that's being breathed in right now. I'm not that. I'm not this world that's made of these 5 elements, periodic table of elements, the atoms, the molecule. They are me, but I'm not them. Atom, consciousness, but consciousness remains free of atom and molecule. Therefore, we have come to the conclusion of Nirvana Shatakam, verse 1. And the verses are there to remove these ideas that we have entangled with this aham. And the purpose is to detangle them. And this nirvana, the word means freedom from blemish. You are that which is free from blemish. Free from all forms of limitation. That's your nature. And this freedom is being or can be spoken in 100 verses, in 1 million verses. Here it's being talked about in 6 verses. And thus, it wants to point out what is always true and surgically remove those small ideas that we put into our eye. And this will continue next month, where we will go into a different kind of teaching, because we have created a small dualistic problem now. And that is, we said there is aham and naham. There are two things. But we have to understand how are they actually one. Because Nirvana Shatakam says all that is here is one. Show me that directly. I need to understand that. This will happen next month. And so I will close and then I will give us a small exercise. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.